Hey guys, it's Karl. Welcome to a new year and another new desk setup video. And if this is one of the first you're seeing on the channel, welcome. And I typically do one of these videos at the beginning of every year to showcase the desk setup, which you kind of see behind me. That helps run the YouTube channel, that helps me do all the stuff that I do day to day here on the studio, completely unsponsored, just a fresh piece of content to give you guys some inspiration to make upgrades to your desk setup in 2022. And you'll probably see by the time this video goes up till the end of the year, we kind of make little minor incremental changes with all the new stuff that kind of comes out in the tech space. So we will start off with the desk itself. It's actually the same desk that I'm recording on here. These are both actually from a company called Rove Concepts. They're more of a furniture company, but because we worked on multiple projects together, they've just sent me out multiple of these desks. I would not recommend them for a actual desk setup because they're on the pricier end. I think they're more of nicer, higher end furniture brand. You could use this as a living room desk, for example. They've got a really decent build quality, and you can see the materials that they're made out of, all natural wood with a white top. And that's the kind of theme of not only this desk, but the entire studio, the white with the natural exposed wood. So I think they're a great fit. I would still say you could swap that out to the traditional YouTuber IKEA hack, which is the two Alex drawers with a standard kitchen countertop. I believe the Little Trask is the name, and that runs you around $150 for the entire setup. And the main component of any desk setup, other than the desk which the computer lives on, is the actual computer itself. And you can kind of tell I am heavily invested into the Apple ecosystem. I'll actually drop my PC build, which is actually off to the side this way, which I use mostly for gaming, for streaming, but I want to focus on this desk setup first. So I am rocking the new 16-inch MacBook Pro with the M1 Max chip. This is a complete powerhouse of a laptop built into, a laptop form factor. It can rival pretty much any PC, I would even say Mac Pro. It's actually really impressive what Apple is doing with their Apple Silicon. I cannot even get near to the potential of the M1 Max chip. So I'm currently recording right now in 4K. We've got two different streams, and I am barely breaking a sweat on my computer. The fans haven't even ramped up, and if you're in the Final Cut space, I cannot recommend a machine more than M1 Silicon. It is so buttery smooth, and obviously everything else that you do besides that. So if you're doing word processing, obviously overkill. If you're browsing the net, obviously overkill. If you're multitasking 100 Chrome tabs, it can still handle. Obviously still overkill. I love that Apple has reintroduced some of the traditional ports. So we've got the SD card slot, and I lived the dongle life for I think 4 to 5 years when we made that switch to unibody. I believe I had the older MacBook that had the SD card slot, that had MagSafe, that had a thicker body, and we've kind of gone back to that style. Apple hasn't admitted they're wrong, but it's finally around time where a pro computer or a pro laptop can have that pro name. And I'm absolutely willing to sacrifice a couple extra millimeters in size or thickness to have some of those port or IO options. So I do truly love that. I know that it's expensive. I've sold countless body parts, my liver, my kidney, to afford one. If you can justify it, I would probably still recommend the 14-inch. I wouldn't say the M1 Max is necessary. You can get by with the M1 Pro chip. But if you are in the Apple ecosystem, if you're in Final Cut, I cannot recommend a device more for creators, for just regular day-to-day use. It will not miss a beat. And if you can, once again, afford it, it probably wins laptop of the year. And I can see that Apple will improve it in 2022. I'm predicting, what am I predicting? Probably an M2 chip that will have better graphs and better squiggly lines than the M1 Max, M1 Pro. I'm almost sure we'll see that Pro/Max chipset coming to the iMac line, coming to the Mac Mini line, which I think will be powerhouses. But really impressive with what Apple is doing. And I'm sure more companies like Intel are probably sweating their butts off to kind of see the performance gains that this computer has. So anyways, from there, I do connect it to something, once again, very overkill. In the Apple space, again, it is the Pro Display XDR. So that's actually my second year of owning it. And I do love the fact that it is both in the silver colorway. I spec'd my MacBook Pro to match the Pro Display XDR. This is a piece of tech where I can't really justify the price for, at least for the MacBook Pro. That can change your workflow, that can increase your productivity, it can make you money. Having an external display, unless you are in the, I guess, high-end cinema or video space and you need something with true color accuracy, you can get by doing all the stuff that I'm doing or you're doing on a $100, $150, $200, $300, $400, $500 monitor, even $1,000. This monitor is more than that. It's double, I think, the price. And for example, the stand, $1,000 for a piece of aluminum. It's the Apple tax. I will say it is the best looking display. The cheese grater back I think is pretty iconic. I damaged mine. I guess I wanted to create my own little notch. I thankfully didn't shatter the display, but yeah, it irks me to see that little piece of glass and aluminum damaged. But thankfully, like I said, still completely fine. I use that to kind of multitask. I usually have my Final Cut on one screen, whatever, off to the side, Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever I happen to have. It just helps with extra screen real estate. One thing I will say, Apple can charge thousands of dollars, but it still doesn't have a built-in webcam. I still need to look either at my MacBook Pro, so I'm kind of looking down. If you want, you can always attach an external one, but c'est la vie. That's life. The Pro Display is living on top of a monitor stand just to rise it off the desk and give me some area or room for cable management. I do love the fact USB-C is just the one cable to both charge and power the monitor. The riser is from Ergon-Phi, and I solely got it just to tie into the entire natural wood theme. The wood theme kind of continues on top to the wall shelves, which are from Grovemade, and there I just typically have little desk accessories. So right now I do have my headphones, which I typically don't rock because in my studio, especially right now with COVID, I am the only one here. So headphones of choice, those typically rotate throughout the year. Right now, I do have my AirPod Maxes. I wouldn't recommend these once again. I think they're too expensive. I think they look pretty dope. They're a bit heavy. Typically, I'll rotate between those or my Sony WH-1000 Mark IIIs. I know the Mark IVs are out. The Mark Vs are probably coming out this year, but I think headphones are just one of those pieces of tech. If they're not broken, you don't really need to upgrade. It isn't really revolutionary every time new headphones comes out. I also have little bits of Lego, which is also not only, I guess, a hobby of mine. I do collect some pieces. So I'm into the Star Wars set. So we've got the AT-AT Walker. We also have the Ultimate Collectors series, the USC, UCS, Star Destroyer. That's kind of what you see behind me, and typically for all of my Lego sets, I do kind of match them to important dates. So I actually got this when I moved into my studio. I also have the USC AT-AT Walker USC Ultimate Collector Series. So this one is on deck. It is 6,785 pieces, and yeah, I got this one for actually my birthday / Christmas to myself this year for having such an awesome year on YouTube. Well, I guess last year. So on deck, let me know where I should put this. Also a big Porsche fan, which you can see my little Lego Turbo off to the side. That does live on one of the shelves typically. So a big Lego fan, big Porsche fan, and a big Apple fan, and that's actually the only piece of art that I have. It's a little thing from Grid Studios. It's an older iPhone 5 into a little canvas piece. They've taken all the little bits out of the iPhone and created a little art piece. So I think for a techie, those are cool little things to make desk setups a bit more unique, whether you're into Lego, whether you're into a car brand, yeah, just kind of personalize it. Going around to the rest of the desk, which are actually sitting on top of these little felt pads. I actually have one here as well. These are from Grovemade also. They're these great little wool felt pads to help not only protect your desk, but it serves as a large mouse pad as well. So you can see they come in a couple different colorways. I've got the light gray one over on that desk, the dark gray one here. Flanking the setup are my oldest pieces of tech here. I've had them for I think close to a decade, are the Yamaha HS7 studio monitors. Great set of speakers / reference monitors. Don't currently have them turned on right now because I have to run that through a little Apogee interface or an audio interface at the back, but I think they just look great. They're more aesthetic, to be honest, than anything. And then off to the side on my desk setup are usually the essential accessories that I typically go through. So first are my smartphones. So I typically have 3. I'll usually have my favorites of the year and my daily drivers. So I am rocking the iPhone 13 Pro Max in Sierra Blue, and I think Apple smashed it with their blues this year. I love the tone of this. It looks great. Obviously, in that Apple ecosystem, tough to escape an iPhone. Has the best video quality, has iMessage, has AirDrop. The size of it is great, but if I were to recommend an iPhone, the standard iPhone 13, I think for most people would do just fine. We've got the Pixel 6 Pro, my favorite Android device of the year. Stock Google or stock Android. Google is also doing some great stuff with their own chipsets. They came out with their new Tensor chip. Computational photography on Google is second to none. Great Android device. And typically I actually had my Galaxy Z Fold 3 as my third favorite phone of the year, but I think that actually got replaced by the Oppo N, which is one of the coolest folding smartphones. And typically with folding phones, you see that dirty crease in the middle of the screen. The Oppo N is probably the best folding mechanism that I've seen on a folding device. So if you actually look at this off axis, you cannot see too much of a crease. The same can't be said for the Z Fold 3, and in all honesty, the Oppo Find N has a better form factor. It isn't extremely tall and skinny. I think this size is actually better, especially when the phone is closed in its sandwich form. This display size is better than the thin, skinny one from what we see over on the Samsung side. And beside that, some other essential accessories. I do just have a standard notebook and pen. Typically, I still jot down all of my notes for the day, any little ideas I have for videos. There's just something nice about, actually writing stuff down, and I am a big sucker for stationery. So once again, from GroveMade, they've got this really expensive stainless steel pen that just feels super nice to use in hand. That's kind of just one of my weird fetishes that I like to write things down still. It's just my anti-tech for the year. And usually beside that, I have a gaming console, and because you cannot use this extremely expensive Pro Display XDR as an external monitor, doesn't have HDMI, you can only run a handheld device or a handheld console. That's where my Nintendo Switch comes from. I wish I could plug in my Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 into this monitor, but Apple keeps everything closed off and tight. So with my Switch, I am actually just rocking the new Pokemon game, Shining Pearl. The game that I'm probably looking forward to most is Breath of the Wild 2, and I did have the new Nintendo Switch OLED, but I did get rid of it because I do have a custom orange painted Nintendo Switch. I think it's a one of one, or at least I'd like to think so. If you're also new to the channel, if you can't tell, orange is my color of choice. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't think I'll ever get rid of that. And beside that is sadly my iPad Pro 12.9 inch that just is a dust collector. I still cannot get on board using an iPad as an actual sole device. It just is running iPad OS, which is just not as versatile. It's, to me, running a larger version of my iPhone. I get that you can use it as an artist with the Apple Pencil. It's great for media consumption, but for a $1,000 plus device with an M1 chip inside, it has so much potential, but the limiting factor is iPad OS. And I think the keynote from last year when they introduced you can use widgets on your iPad. You don't need a $1,000 iPad to have widgets. A $200 Android device can run widgets. So anyways, that's my wish from Apple this year, to really make iPad OS just more versatile, more usable, I think, for a lot of people. But once again, that's my own opinion. And sadly, my iPad just becomes my third or tertiary screen. So while I'm editing on my MacBook Pro, it's kind of just living off to the side. I've usually got football games, or I'm watching some Netflix show in the background. Yeah, Apple, listen to my wish for iPad OS, please. Lastly, on the side, typically I've just got a camera, which is the A7S III. I'm recording with one right now. So all of the B-roll that I shoot with these devices, I typically just pop my SD card out right into the side of my MacBook Pro. I will say, for cameras, if you guys are looking to grab one, I'd still recommend the Sony a7 IV, which came out at the end of last year. Probably the best bang for your buck hybrid video / camera that you can get. The A7S IIIs are good, great, awesome for video, but I think they just lack in some of the photo work. I wish I kind of knew that before I bought them, but that's kind of buyer's remorse and why we're in the tech space because we always want to make upgrades. And lastly, something else from Grove made, I just noticed off to the side, it's just this little cork tray where I just typically throw my wallet, my keys at the beginning of the day, so they're just in one place. So as an example, I've just got maybe some extra little B-roll things. So I've got an Apple TV remote, I've got my little Lego dudes, I've got an Apple Pencil, I've got my unboxing knife every day. This matches my stainless steel pen. Remember, super weird about stationery, but I do kind of love them. And something that I want to improve on, maybe this is my tech New Year's resolution. I am the worst person at storing footage. So every time I record a YouTube video, I make the edit. That's my typical workflow. And at the end of that, I delete all my footage. I actually delete my master file because I just cannot manage my hard drives. I cannot manage my storage. So this year I'm trying to put all of my final finished files onto a hard drive. So typically I just use these ones from Samsung. This one, 500 gigs, so I can store more than a couple final files. I have the filthiest habit of just re-downloading my old YouTube videos if I need to reuse some footage. So I will keep my files safer. I will have better file management for this year. I've actually just got my little aperture light, so if I want, I can adjust them on camera. It's out of battery, so I also need to do that. And a magic mouse. Probably shouldn't be in there. But yeah, that is kind of the main desk setup. And before I forget, I typically forget the chair that I'm using. So many people ask about it. This is the Herman Miller M-Body. This is a chair that I've used probably as much, or it's as old as my Yamaha speakers. I've had this since my old studio, so 2 studios ago. Invest into a proper chair is probably my advice as I move into an older age, out of my 20s, out of my teens. I actually notice how bad my back hurts after sitting in a crappy chair for 6-7 hours a day. Invest into a good thing. It's essentially investing to your health. I obviously love it. It still holds up completely fine, even close to a decade later. I probably just need to give the cushions, or I guess the fabric, a good clean, but other than that, the performance has been great. And before I do forget, there is one pack that kind of lives under my desk to help me move my gear. This is actually new into the studio. This is formerly a douche bag, for any of you that have watched Jan Olsen's old stuff. It's a backpack company that he and his friends started, initially focused on ski backpack or ski gear, but has kind of stretched into the lifestyle space. I believe now they are just called DB or DB Journey. This one is the Haida 90 liter, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a tech backpack. It doesn't have individualized pockets for, say, your camera, for your laptop, but it makes a really great duffel. So we're actually planning on bringing this to CES this year, and I think by the time you watch this video, if all goes well, knock on wood, I believe our current plans are still to attend the conference. I know with COVID cases going crazy, it's still kind of a very last minute thing, but we do think we're gonna bring this pack just because it can hold so much. 90 liters is a ton of space. So not only tech gear, clothes, we actually plan to go golfing, hopefully, knock on wood. So we'll bring a lot of our clothing gear in this. And I actually am eyeing one of their ski bags to purchase. It was sold out at the end of last year. I'm planning to go on a ski/snowboarding trip in February. I'm actually working on a cool project with Porsche out in Montreal, so driving some cool cars in the snow and snowboarding. So hopefully that does come back in stock. And that is kind of, my desk setup tour for the beginning of this year. So like I said, a lot of this will slowly change throughout the year. You'll see pieces of tech get upgraded or kind of break down. I can obviously see already the phones getting replaced, and before I kind of finish off this vid, I did forget I am rocking the Logitech MX Master 3, maybe the piece of tech that I promote the most over the year. Just like having a good chair for your back, having a good mouse for your hand is pretty vital. I kind of swear by these. I won't switch to anything until the MX Master 4 comes out. And before anyone asks, I don't actually use an external keyboard. Another guilty tech pleasure of mine is to just use the keyboard over on the laptop that I'm using. So I get by totally on my MacBook Pro. I do use the trackpad a lot, but when I do want to give my hands some relief, I go over to my MX Master 3. Cannot wait till the 4 comes out. And anyways, that is kind of the end of this vid. I'm rambling. Hope you guys found some useful tech. If I forgot anything, let me know down below in the comments. And yeah, hope to catch you guys in other videos throughout 2022. Hope to smash this year as we have done every single year before that. Make sure you sub to the channel if you already haven't. I'll say it once, hit that notification bell, comment. You guys know the routine. I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next vids. Peace.